From Jenna Ortega clashing with Wednesday's writers to Sir Alec Guinness lambasting the Jedi Master Obi-Wan, these are stars that hated their breakout roles. Jenna Ortega's taken the world by storm in her recent role as Wednesday Addams, and Netflix hit series Wednesday has fast become their second most-watched English-language show of all time. Ortega's openly expressed her hesitation in taking on the role and regrets it now.
In TV, everything is so rushed and that's me being very naive because you have someone like Tim Burton's name attached. But I thought, oh yeah, it'll go out and...
She might only be 20 years old, but she's had a decent career in television. But now all she wants is a career in film. Jenna's first major role was that of Harley Diaz in the Disney show Stuck in the Middle. This got her quick success, and she became a recognizable face. Ortega's other TV work includes roles in 2012's Rob, a guest starring role in a 2013 episode of CSI New York, and the recurring role of Zoe Leon in 2014's Rake. She also starred as young Jane in the CW's Jane the Virgin from 2014 to 2019. Although she has an impressive record under her belt for her age, Ortega says what she's really passionate about is film work. And so far, she's had great success landing so high-end supporting roles in films like Iron Man 3, Insidious Chapter 2, and of course, the two most recent installments of the Scream franchise. Ortega says she's done so much TV, and all she's ever wanted to do is film. She's also worried that spending so much time on TV sets will eat up precious time that could have been spent on movies. When she was contacted about playing the titular character in Netflix's Wednesday, Ortega originally rejected the offer more than twice. And Tim Burton's involvement with the show was the big reason she eventually reconsidered. But even after she met and got along with Burton, she still said no. She reluctantly accepted the role and assumed the series would not be an enormous success. Of course, now, we all know how massive the show is. But still, Ortega isn't entirely happy about it. Between dialogue, certain choices, and behaviors, she felt the written character wasn't true to the nature of the Addams family's eldest child. According to Jenna, things like the inclusion of a love triangle, being caught acting ditzy over a dress, and the now famous dance scene in the show are all contrary to what the character should be. This is why Ortega would change lines on the spot and explain to writers what had happened after the fact. Overall, Jenna felt frustrated and confused by all the different visions directors had for the character. She also noted a crazy shooting schedule, which I'm sure didn't help. But Jenna's far from the only Hollywood star to hate their breakout role. Take, for instance, famous 2010's heartthrob Robert Pattinson and his role in the Twilight movie franchise as sexy vampire Edward Cullen. It's no secret that Pattinson was neither a fan of the books nor the film adaptations. In fact, he's gone so far as to call Stephenie Meyer, the author of the book series, absolutely mad. When Meyer released the first Twilight book back in 2005, it quickly became a global phenomenon. And readers couldn't get enough of the romance between an ordinary human teenager, Bella Swan, and Edward Cullen. The film adaptations were arguably even more widely received, turning Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson into household names. But Pattinson was never moved by the story itself. He suggested the story was more of an exploration of Meyer's own sexual fantasy than pure fiction. He pointed out things he didn't think made any sense, like 100-and-something-year-old vampires going to high school. Pattinson's apparent resentment toward the Twilight movies must be based on his general disdain for the plot. He finds the story, characters, and lack of substance so bad, he regrets ever taking part in it.
Did your Twilight experience turn out to be what you expected?
Oh.
Lucky for him, though, he doesn't seem to have been typecast. When asked if he took anything away from the set of the final movie, Pattinson gave a savage response and said simply, "My dignity." Since then, Pattinson's gone on to play roles in a number of critically acclaimed films. His role in the Twilight franchise is surely his breakout role, but it's clearly something he'd like to forget. He's since gone on to star in the Oscar-winning film The Lighthouse and played the titular character in 2022's The Batman. Speaking of actors who'd like to forget their breakout roles, enter Sir Alec Guinness. Guinness got his start in acting in the first half of the 20th century, performing in plays and acting in movies by the late 1940s. And it didn't take long for Alec to garner a number of great accolades for his performance in 1957's classic The Bridge on the River Kwai. Guinness was not only awarded a BAFTA Award for Best Actor, but also an Academy Award for Best Actor. Talk about gains! However, it was his breakout role as a Jedi Master that showed the world who he was. And he wasn't at all happy about it. Did you know that Sir Alec Guinness hated the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi? To be honest, I don't want to know that. But alas, it's true. Guinness has been celebrated for his role as Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi across the Star Wars franchise, but he himself was never very impressed by the idea. Fairy tale rubbish is what he thought of science fiction. When Guinness's authorized biography came out, it shed some light on his feelings about Paul Lucas's space epic. Oh, did I say Paul Lucas? That's right. Guinness made the mistake of calling George Paul on at least one occasion, although it's rumored he was bad with names. Ever heard of Tennyson Ford? Neither have I, but according to Guinness, he was the actor that played Han Solo. So Sir Alec was never very interested in Star Wars to begin with. And he wasn't the only one, mind you. Harrison Ford, famously mocked his own character, referring to the captain of the Millennium Falcon as Ham Yo-Yo. If you don't know who he really played, you ought to go watch Star Wars ASAP. But Guinness hated the role. He went so far as calling the script rubbish dialogue that made his character unbearable. During the 1977 film shoot, he said, "Can't say I'm enjoying the film." And last but not least, a little bonus for y'all. The sexiest spy alive, the one and only Sean Connery. Connery once said, "I have always hated that damned James Bond. I'd like to kill him."
Can I ask you how you would like to be remembered? Do you care?
No.
Is it wrong that I'd love to hear Connery as Bond saying that? Connery was famously considered the sexiest man alive for many years and made his debut as the M16 agent in 1962's Dr. No and reprised the role on 6 occasions. In doing so, Connery established the character of Bond in the film, and it had a profound impact on his own acting work. But this wasn't a labor of love. In fact, Connery quit the role twice. Somehow that makes sense, but he returned each time. First in 1971's Diamonds Are Forever, and again in 1983's Never Say Never Again. Delightfully ironic, that last one. But it would be the last time Connery played the British spy. Connery and longtime Bond film producer Albert R. Cubby Broccoli developed a bitter disdain for one another, and surprise, surprise, it revolved around salary and royalties. Turns out being a spy doesn't pay either, at least not as much as Sean Connery would have liked. Their disagreements got so bad that Connery didn't even attend Broccoli's funeral. Connery felt like he wasn't fairly compensated for his early work as the world's most famous spy. And of course, his face as the face of Bond, James Bond, went on to make millions. Whatever happened afterward, though, Connery will always be the first. So, there you have it. From Jenna Ortega clashing with Wednesday's writers to Sir Alec Guinness lambasting the Jedi Master Obi-Wan, those were stars that hated their breakout roles.